Today I hiked Mount Takao, which is a mountain I already hiked twice in the past, but I never really filmed. And it was also our last hike in Japan, and it was actually filmed on the last day before we flew back to Vienna. But yeah, as always, I'm going to give you kind of information if you want to do the hike yourself. It's one of the most popular mountains in Tokyo, and probably one of the most popular mountains to hike in Japan besides Mount Fuji. But if you want to do it as a day trip from Tokyo, here are all the information that you need. Of all of the mountains I did so far, this was certainly the most easily accessible one. It is located along the Keio line, which runs from Shinjuku Station and then all the way to the final stop, which is Takao Sanguchi Station. From there it's around a 5 to 10 minute walk to the cable car station, and from the cable car station you can either take a cable car to the top, but all of the hiking trails also start from this cable car station. Just make sure to not accidentally get on the JR trains which run to Takao Station, which is however one stop ahead of Takao Sanguchi Station, and you would have to transfer trains anyway, so I would just recommend getting on the Keio line. It takes maybe around an hour or so from Shinjuku, and I would recommend getting on an express train or some kind of limited express train, because they are much faster than the local trains. Always see kind of a sign at the train station whether it's a local train or an express train, limited express train, special express train. But the express trains just skip a couple of stops and it will take much less time to get to the final stop. This is the most famous hike in Tokyo and probably one of the hikes that everybody does. Also, what I'm trying to say with that is that it's going to be very busy, especially if you do it around the time that I did, which was a weekend, Saturday. It was kind of spring holiday season, so that increases people, and also Sakura season was on, so those three factors just made the hike very busy. It was kind of like lining up for Disneyland in certain parts. So if you want to do the hike, I would recommend, as with all other hikes in Japan, going on a weekday, because there's going to be much fewer people. Now a lot of people that do hiking are kind of retired, so older people, and for them every day is a weekend, so it's not going to matter that much, but you will at least avoid the younger crowds and the working crowds and the students and everybody who otherwise would not be able to climb the mountain. There are overall 6 trails around Mount Takao, but only 4 of them lead to the top. There is number 1, which is the Omotesando trail. This is the main trail and also the longest one. This one kind of follows along a paved road and it has kind of the most attractions. It also has a monkey park along it. And from this trail also trail number 4 splits off, which is the suspension bridge trail. This one splits off around halfway through from the Omotesando trail and also, well, follows the suspension bridge to the top of Mount Takao. And then there are 2 more trails, which are the ones that I did today. On the way up, I did the Biwataki Falls trail. This is kind of a trail that follows nicely along the forest and next to the river, and also passes the Biwataki waterfalls. They weren't really that impressive, but I mean, it's nice to see some waterfalls. It follows through the forest. It's a little bit less crowded than the trail number 1. And on the way down, I took the Mount Inari Ridgeline trail. This one was the least crowded out of those, I would say, because it kind of follows really through the nature, through a ridgeline. It's still very not challenging, but it is more nature-based, and you get some nice views out on Tokyo overall if you want to do it. And then the other 2 trails that I didn't mention are basically just loop trails that kind of loop around Mount Takao or loop off certain parts of the other trails. And I'm going to link down in the description down below a map with all of the different trails that you can download, so you are prepared if you want to do the hike. But yeah, overall, no matter which trail you take, it's going to be a fairly easy hike. You can make it even easier if you want. You can take the cable car halfway to the top and then just hike the last, I don't know, kilometer or so to the top of Mount Takao. No trail should take you longer than 2 hours or so, so that's really the maximum amount of time. For me, it took around 1.5 hours, but you have to count in that it was very busy. Sometimes you had to just kind of line up and wait for people who were walking ahead of you slowly to walk. And then also, obviously, since I was filming, there were certain sections where I just had to get back my tripod. So honestly, if you are a fast hiker, you can probably do it in an hour to get from the bottom to the top of Mount Takao. From the top of Mount Takao, you can continue the hike to other mountains in that region, probably the most famous one being Mount Jimba, which was also the first mountain that I hiked in Japan almost 2 years ago, I believe. But it's kind of, I think, a 5-hour hike from Mount Takao to Mount Jimba, so it's kind of long and probably can't really do it both ways in one day, but it is kind of an extra option if you want to make the hike for you a little bit more challenging than just hiking up to Mount Takao. I kind of did a section of the hike this time, continuing to Mount Shido, which was a little bit around an hour or so away from Mount Takao. There are many restaurants and vending machines where you can buy food and drinks on top of Mount Takao, but you have to kind of remember that it's going to be a little bit more expensive than if you buy it at the bottom, because it's a restaurant on top of a mountain. So for example, drinks are going to be 200 yen for 1 bottle. Normally, if you buy them at the bottom, it's going to be 100 yen, so you'll have to pay double for that. Food is a little bit more reasonable. I saw like soups going for 300 yen. You can have main meals for around 600 yen, around $6 or so. If you want to save the money, you can just bring some of your own food and have a picnic up top, which is what I always do. There are options if you are not comfortable with lugging around the extra weight for food or for drinks, or if you want to do trail running and you don't want to lug around stuff, then there are options for buying food both on Mount Takao and also Mount Shiroyama, which is the other mountain that I went to. As I said, the mountain is very easy to hike, so you don't need any kind of special hiking gear. You can go in just normal sneakers, just normal clothing and everything, and you're gonna be fine. Maybe just bring some sunscreen in summer because you don't want to get sunburned. Again, very fairly easy beginner hike, so you don't have to be careful about anything. Maybe just if you want to rely on the cable car to get up and down, then you might want to note the last time of the cable car running down, because otherwise you will have to walk down to the bottom. But again, it's maybe like 2 kilometers, so unless you really need the cable car, then it's still an option to just walk to the bottom. The highlights of this hike are certainly kind of the views that you can get from the top. On the one side you can see all the way to Tokyo. On a clear day you can probably even see Skytree. I wasn't on this day. And on the other side you can see the kind of Kanagawa mountain range, you can see Onoyama, you can see Tonodake, you can see Sagamiko Illumination Park, and on a clear day you can also see all the way to Mount Fuji. The best days if you want to see Mount Fuji during a hike in Japan is always going to be during winter or colder spring or autumn days, because it's not going to be really possible when it's warm and it's hazy. And also the best time is going to be in the morning or as early as possible, because the later the day gets, the more cloudy it gets, and the more cloudy Fuji gets, and the less of a chance there is to see. And besides that, I think Mount Takao is really the best place in Tokyo to see nature and the most easily accessible one, because again, in 1 hour you can go from Shinjuku, a very busy center of the city, to completely unspoiled and pure nature, which is something that is really interesting and a lot of people are obviously very fond of, and that's why they protect this area very in its nature pristine state, as it is for the biggest part. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the last final hiking video in Japan. Thank you very much for following along for 1 year hiking in Japan. It was a lot of fun, starting from Mount Jimba and then the Jogasaki coast and all of the other hikes that we did in and around the Tokyo area. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, definitely, hiking in Japan. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask them in the comments down below. I really want to encourage people to do more hiking in Japan than to just explore, the bigger Japanese cities. And yeah, I'm hoping that I will be back someday again in Japan to do some more hiking, but for now I'm hoping that I can also do some hiking here in Austria. Problem is, I don't know if you can see it, but the weather is kind of shit. It has been kind of raining almost every day, or at least cloudy and cold almost every day since we arrived. So I'm just hoping for the weather to get a little bit better so I can film some more hiking stuff here. But yeah, thank you very much for following along 1 year hiking in Japan. There's going to be a playlist down below where I kind of collect all of the hikes that I did in Japan over the last year, if you want to watch those. Hope you have fun if you want to do Mount Takao. If you have any other questions about hiking Mount Takao or anything, feel free to also ask them down below. And yeah, that's it for today. I'm going to be seeing you in the next one, hopefully some more hiking here in Austria. But yeah, for now, that's it, and I'll see you next one. See ya.